Rising gas prices, Middle East instability, unusual weather worldwide, and abnormally rapid melting of the polar ice cap. It's enough to drive the Community Environmental Council to launch an ambitious campaign in the Tri-Counties.
The campaign of Fossil Free by 33 is designed to wean our region. Our region for us is Santa Barbara County, Ventura County, and San Luis County off fossil fuels by 2033.
CEC Energy Program Director Tam Hunt points to two very real possibilities: the end of cheap oil and global warming.
That we probably have maybe a decade or 15 years to do something really serious on a global scale about our CO2 emissions and other greenhouse gas emissions. And so basically I would say the urgency of our program is very high, and that luckily for us the message is getting out there and there's a real robust national debate going on.
And Hunt says that our situation gets even more critical if, as some already believe, the world oil supply is past its peak.
So if we're there already, things are only going to get worse in terms of pricing and availability. And the worst case scenario is that we actually see more overt resource wars. We don't have the energy we need for our society. Things break down entirely.
Or, most likely, he says, the oil uncertainties play out like this.
We'll see increasing prices over the next few years, and that with the current interest in things like ethanol, biodiesel, plug-in hybrid cars, hydrogen fuel cell cars, I think we will have time to make that transition to a non-fossil future, or at least to a future where we actually have enough fossil resources to meet current demand and then taper it off.
There are those who reject the global warming and peak oil scenarios, but a momentum is building to find alternative fuels and cleaner burning forms of transportation. Hybrids are a fast-growing segment of the auto industry, and there is new excitement about a 110-year-old engine, the diesel.
I've had a Prius since they first came out in this country, and I've just loved it.
Alan embraces the hybrid so much that he helped subsidize the purchase of 9 more for managers and field supervisors within his construction company.
Really what we're concerned about is our overall impact on the globe and on the environment. And we're trying to increase the scope of our mindset in relation to changing the ways we've done things for so long.
10% of Alan's workforce drive a hybrid, many of them abandoning their gas-guzzling, high-polluting pickup trucks.
And if they were driving 20, 30,000 miles a year in a truck, it looked like they could pay for the whole vehicle in about 2.5 years in terms of cost gas savings.
For the rest of us whose hybrid purchase is not subsidized, there are some attractive incentives from state and federal governments.
It's called a tax credit. It's not the deductions up to $2,600. The Prius up to $3,150.
Now, does that depend on your personal income?
Yes, it's depending on your personal income.
In order to receive a 100% tax credit, which comes directly off your gross income, it's important to buy your hybrid early in the year.
After they sell at $60,000, they're going to go to 50% of that, and after that go to 25%, and they're going to be gone.
And Lee says fuel economy has improved since the first hybrid was introduced in the U.S. in 2001.
The new model, you get better gas mileage compared to the first model. The first model was like 41, 45 miles per gallon. The new model, 51 to 60.
Home Power Magazine recently compared the SUV Ford Escape with the Ford Escape Hybrid. The magazine considered purchase price, fuel costs, fuel economy, and other factors, and determined that the more expensive hybrid paid for its extra cost in 3 years. The city of Santa Barbara has increased its fleet of hybrids to 20 in the past few years, and MTD has 8 40-foot hybrid buses on order which emit 60 to 90% fewer emissions.
A traditional diesel transit vehicle, like you see behind me, traditionally gets about 3 to 4 miles per gallon, where the hybrid technology brings you closer to 5 or 6 miles per gallon. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're traveling 2 million miles a year, that adds up quickly.
In 2005, MTD handled 7.2 million passenger trips. That's the 10th largest ridership per capita in the U.S.
I think a lot of it has to do with the price of fuel. We're seeing the greatest increase in our Valley Express service. We're up over 20% from where we were last year at this time. And system-wide, it's up across the board.
In July, MTD will begin using ultra-low sulfur diesel for its buses. The city of Santa Barbara has been using ultra-low sulfur diesel in its 150 diesel vehicles for a year.
And that fuel takes the particles from 500 particles per million to 15 particles per million of particulates, which is the thing that probably bothers most people about diesel.
There's the old image of the noisy, smelly, smoky diesel engine. Well, believe it or not, it has the potential to run cleaner than a regular car engine and on average gets 30% better mileage.
They just sound better on veg.
It's loud, isn't it?
Trip Ridge has come to Ojai to have mechanic Joel Wolf retrofit his diesel pickup truck to run on new or used vegetable oil.
You wait till the vehicle gets to normal operating temperature, you flip a switch on the dash, it shuts the diesel off, it opens up the oil lines, and same horsepower, same miles per gallon, and basically you're driving for free. And you're not polluting. And you just go behind a restaurant, you stick this hose in the barrel, and you flip a switch, it sucks the oil out, filters it, and puts it in the tank. So that's what we mean by free fuel.
Nice and clear. Got my line, micron filter on the end. It's my work truck, and it uses gas. And because it's a diesel, it has the ability to be converted to run on recycled vegetable oil. There's there's an expense to do the conversion, but especially for commuters, it makes even more sense. Probably 40, 50 bucks worth of gas, easy. It certainly smells a lot better.
Once collected, the transition from petrodiesel to vegetable oil is as simple as a flip of the switch.
I start the motor on regular diesel fuel in the morning and bring it up to operating temperature. And then there's a little toggle switch right here. And I click it over from diesel to veg.
In the late 1800s, Rudolph Diesel built the engine to run on peanut oil so farmers could grow their own fuel. Now it's high prices that are fueling interest. For around $3,000, depending on the vehicle, Wolf installs a heated filtration system for both old and new diesels.
There was no carbon buildup, there was no soot, there was nothing. It was gorgeous. Absolutely blown away by what we found. The particulate is reduced immensely from it. It does produce a NOx, but we found a way to overcome that as well.
Sandy Ynez resident Patty Pagaling needs no conversion. Her brand new Jeep Liberty runs on 100% biodiesel, virgin soybean oil from Iowa. On this day, it cost her $3.80 a gallon at the McCormick's gas station on Calle Cesar Chavez Street.
I think it's worth it because we owe something to the earth. I mean, here we all are spewing all this tons of stuff into the air, and we're not really taking into consideration the cost of the environment.
There is not a financial benefit to it. It quite frankly costs more money. The real benefit is that you're putting out essentially zero pollutants.
Olson sells 3,000 to 4,000 gallons of biodiesel a month, a trend that's steadily rising, but the fuel has not yet caught on with companies or government agencies that own large fleets of diesel vehicles.
It has not been endorsed by any large manufacturer, which is really what needs to happen for there to be an uninterrupted supply of fuel and for it to be more affordable.
Our history with our fleet and most of the university research done on the B20 shows no harmful effects to the engines using this particular fuel.
The city of Santa Barbara has tested a 20% blend of biodiesel on 3 vehicles and had no problems. So beginning July 1, every diesel fuel order will be 20% biodiesel to be used in all 150 diesel vehicles.
Approximately 1,700 gallons will be soybean oil. So clearly we have reduced our dependency on buying number 2 diesel by 20% for every truckload that's delivered to the city. And I think that's a big benefit.
For individual drivers like Patty Pagaling, a big problem continues to be availability of biodiesel.
Once you leave this zip code, where do you buy it? You can't pull into every gas station and say, I'd like biodiesel, please. They just don't have it.
Best case scenario is this plant will do well in our Mediterranean climate, will produce little nuts that produce oil that can then be processed into biodiesel, to creating a sustainable fuel source for our county.
Karen Flagg supervises the Green Academy students at Santa Barbara High School on a program to grow an oil-rich nut called Jeutrophis curcus.
These plants here, the seeds have about a 35 to 50% oil content and a very high yield per acre.
The goal is to establish plots of land countywide where these hardy plants can thrive, and by doing so, replace the 27 million gallons of petrodiesel being consumed in Santa Barbara County every year.
Potentially, if you can basically use a non-toxic feedstock that's available locally, you can solve all sorts of environmental problems and avoid a lot of international entanglements that we're involved in because of petroleum politics. And that situation is not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
The Navy is contracting Teal to build a processing facility at the Port Hueneme Seabee base. It will transform used cooking oil into 10 million gallons of biodiesel a year. This is one of many processing plants Teal is assembling around the country.
In order to replace our dependence on foreign oil and fossil fuels is a huge undertaking, and it's going to take many, many different types of technology and resources. So the battleship is turning, and the acceptance and exposure of people to biodiesel and other alternative technologies is going to become greater and greater.
There is a local measure on the November ballot that CEC's Tam Hunt believes is a litmus test for how concerned the public is about oil independence and climate change. The renewal of Measure D would generate sales tax revenues for traditional road maintenance and for creating more alternative forms of transportation such as commuter rail to and from Ventura County.
Climate change resonates well with traditional left-wing folks. Energy independence resonates with everyone. And this is actually really being driven home by the right wing now, is that, look, we don't want to be beholden to countries like Saudi Arabia for our oil. The basic message is the first step is to conserve, use less energy. Second step is to think how you can actually replace your current fossil fuel use with renewable fuels.